Hey guys, it's Byron with Dimension Games again, and now we're going to take a look at actual gameplay for Dawn of Madness. This will be 3 rounds of the game specifically, and I'm going to try to show you a lot of the main mechanics in that video. I'm going to show you a lot of what you can do and a lot of how the game functions and that sort of thing. There will be spoilers in this. There will absolutely be spoilers. I'm going to try to mark them for you guys, but please be aware there will be spoilers. Now, most of what we're going to be doing are just world shard encounters, which are the ones printed on the world shard cards themselves. And these are obviously these are the baseline encounters. So these are not necessarily going to be the scariest. They're also not necessarily going to be the most story intensive ones. These are more setting the stage by and large. So there's not going to be a lot of spoilers too much. More than anything, it'll probably just be enough to pique your interest and confuse you a little bit. But having said all that, let's jump down to the table and let's play some Dawn of Madness. So to start off with, let's just cover a couple things real fast. First of all, the objective of the game is to forge a unique, frightening story through the game's encounters while fighting to defeat its imposing mini-boss, the Abomination. If you succeed, you'll proceed into one of your story's 4 endings to shape its conclusion. Now, in every game of Dawn of Madness, there are 2 distinct stages. This first stage that we see set up here is the Wanderer stage, and this is where you're going to be spending a lot of your time in Dawn of Madness. This is where you're going to be entering encounters, this is where you're going to be fighting terrors, this is where you're going to be confronting the Abomination, and earning points towards one of the 4 endings. Now, once you've beaten the Wanderer stage, these cards will all flip over, and you will enter the finale stage, where you will fight the final boss, if there is one, for the ending you've gotten into, and where you're going to get an ending to your particular story. But how do you get into the finales? Well, to do that, you're going to have to win the Wanderer stage. In order to win the Wanderer stage, the 4 endings' cumulative scores have to equal or exceed 50. So it doesn't matter if this one's got 25, this one's got 5, this one's got 5, and this one's got 10. As long as you've got 50 total ending points, you're going to get into the finale. The other thing you have to accomplish in order to get into the finale is to kill the Abomination. So if you don't kill the Abomination, no finale for you. Now, that's all well and good, how to win it, but how do you lose it? Well, you lose a game of Dawn of Madness if the 10th game round ends and you still haven't completed the conditions to win, every Wanderer is dead at the same time, or a Wanderer must receive a 4th Withered card, which means that Wanderer has died 4 times total during the game. Now, there are up to 10 rounds in each Wanderer stage of Dawn of Madness, and each of those rounds is further broken down into 3 distinct phases. Those phases are the event phase, which is where you're going to read the entry shown on these tokens here in the storybook to see what's going to happen. And often monsters will spawn, or encounters will spawn, or you'll have to go into a certain encounter, that sort of thing. Then the second one is the action phase. During the action phase, all of the characters, both wanderers and monsters, are going to be taking turns and performing actions, spending mental capacity down the mental capacity track here until everyone reaches 0. Once everyone reaches 0, the action phase has ended, and you then move on to the refresh phase. In the refresh phase, you're going to check if the wanderers have won. You're going to respawn any dead wanderers. All characters will restore their mental capacities, and the Devour cards will be resolved if you're doing the Devour optional rules. In this game, we're not doing the Devour optional rules. We're skipping those because this is our first game. We're just going in like this. So we don't have to worry about those. Okay, having said all that, I think we are about ready to jump into the first round. So let's do that, starting with the event phase. And for this first event phase, we're going to go into entry 10 in the storybook. And it says, spawn the terror, patient aftershock, and 2 random terrors from the terror deck on different world shards. The Wanderer Emily immediately turns to entry 59. Okay, so first of all, let's go ahead and spawn those monsters. So the first monster we're going to spawn on the board is Patient Aftershock. And to do that, we're going to need its card, its figure, and its mental capacity tracker. Now let's take a closer look at Patient Aftershock's card. This is going to reflect Patient Aftershock's health. This is its mental capacity. This is how many existence Wanderers get for defeating it. This is its passive ability. Wanderers cannot spend hand domains to reroll dice. That's kind of nasty. Then looking over here, this is its action sequence along the right-hand side. So you'll notice that its first action starts off with no Wanderer in its space. This is the requirement that must be met in order for this action to take place. If this requirement cannot be met, then you're going to jump down to the second action. A Wanderer is in its space. If this couldn't be met and there was a third one here, then we would go to that third one. And if none of those could be met, then it wouldn't activate this round and its mental capacity would be reduced directly to 0. Looking here in the corner, you're going to see how many mental capacity this action takes. So this one takes 2 mental capacity, and this one also takes 2 mental capacity. Sometimes this will say 1 or 3 or X or something like that, and that's always going to be reflective of the action over here. Now this says Aftershock moves up to X spaces toward the Wanderer with the most hand domains, and X equals the Wanderer's number of hand domains. If Aftershock ends in a Wanderer's space, immediately check the action below. So in this case, even though it's already gone and it's already done an action, if it ends in a Wanderer's space, it's immediately going to check this action as well. And if a Wanderer is in its space, Aftershock will deal 2 red damage to the Wanderer with the most hand domains. Now another thing you're going to see here is this line in the middle of this action, followed by more text in a different color. This is a special ability tied in with Aftershock's domain rifts. So say it has a purple hand domain rift here. Then this special ability is going to activate. But for now, it doesn't have any domain rifts. It'll have some in just a second once we spawn it on the board. Okay, so let's go ahead and spawn Patient Aftershock on the board. So for starters, we're going to take its mental capacity tracker and we're going to put that on 4. Then we're going to roll one of the Otherworld dice to see where it's going to go on the board. 15. And that happens to be right in the same spot as Linus. Well, that stinks. But now, since it's spawned in its space, we're able to roll for its domain rifts. To get its domain rifts, you're going to look at the 3 domain icons in the upper left corner of the world shard it spawns on. So in this case, it's 2 blues and a purple. So we would take 2 blue and 1 purple die, and we would roll those. And these are now going to be its domain rifts. So it gets a purple sphere, it gets a blue eye, and it gets a blue sphere. Now none of these will activate its special ability, so phew, we're safe on this. So the reasoning for the domain rifts is that the monsters, as they are appearing in this world, as they're apparating into this place and taking on physical form, they're drawing the essence out of the world shards that they appear on, and they're taking that and making it their own. So in this case, it's drawing the blues and the purple from the Abyssal Maw here, and it's drawing those into itself and using that to give itself physical form. Now, the domain rifts are also the only thing you're going to be able to use to attack this monster, unless you can add another domain rift, as is the case with Claude, but we'll get into that more later. Okay, so that's Patient Aftershock done. Let's move on to the others. So our next 2 monsters that we're going to spawn are going to be Symptom Bile and Penitent Forsaken. So let's go ahead and get them on the board. Okay, so Symptom Bile ended up on number 5, and Penitent Forsaken ended up on number 7, and you'll see in the corners the numbers of each world shard here and where the monsters are going to end up going. In addition, Penitent Forsaken got 2 red hands and a blue brain, which luckily enough does not activate his special abilities, while Symptom Bile got a green eye, a yellow sphere, and a blue hand, which does activate one of its special abilities, unfortunately. So that's these monsters spawned on the board. So now let's jump into the encounter. Entry 59, the Gaping Hole. The entrance yawns before you like a gaping maw. Peering anxiously down that dark gullet of a corridor, you see something flutter further down the passageway like a closing epiglottis. You can't count the number of times you've walked the North Wing. It's the place you were assigned shortly after arriving at Lockwood, after all. So why does entering it now make you so nervous? Why does it look so foreign and frightening? Her voice stirs the humid air, whispers tousling your hair like a warm breeze. Taking a deep breath, you step inside the North Wing. The walls seem to be wet and pulsing. You have little doubt you've entered a living thing. At last, you arrive at the door to her room. You find that your hand is trembling as you reach for the handle. Shaking your head, you open the door. A massive patchwork monstrosity shifts before you. It looks like a gargantuan insect formed from sloppily stapled human flesh. Its arms are almost like vestigial wings, while its four strange legs unsteadily drag the trail of guts that didn't fit inside its ruptured abdomen and thorax across the ground. Shrieking, you close your eyes and shrink away from the abomination rising before you. You search behind you for the door. It has to be there somewhere. You can't be trapped in here. Emily? A familiar voice says. Emily, what's wrong? You feel someone's arms close around your body. Opening your eyes, you stare down at your sister as she hugs you tightly to herself. Looking around, you realize her room encases you now. The monster is gone. Recover from your waking nightmare. Test yellow for brain. If you fail, lose 1 mental capacity. So let's see if Emily can save that mental capacity. She rolls 3 yellows. And she got a brain, so we pass, so we don't lose that mental capacity. I just had the most terrible vision, you manage. It's all right, Laura replies. Come and sit down. Obediently, you follow Laura to her bed and sit on its edge. Laura straightens, turning to her old gramophone. You're still unsure how she convinced the staff to let her have that. Starting a record spinning, she lowers the needle onto it. The familiar combination of hissing static and music ushers out of the machine's ornate horn. Here's one you've always loved, Laura says. It's from the symphony. Of course, you reply. You know just how to calm my nerves. What are twins for? Laura asks with a chuckle. It's funny how different the two of you look. Laura is significantly shorter than you, with dark brown hair that leans toward black. Her features are slighter than your own too. Consequently, she's always looked younger than you, which used to bother you to no end. Laura winces as she limps across the room. Is the leg acting up today? You ask. She nods. Then her expression clears, her chocolate brown eyes assessing you with a mixture of concern and humor. Sitting beside you on the bed, she pulls on you until your head rests against her shoulder. You both sway softly to the music as it fills the room. I chose the wrong profession, you muse. I should have joined the orchestra. But then you wouldn't be here with me, Laura replies. I don't know what I'd do without you here. That's true, you admit. I suppose it all worked out, but still, I wish I could create something beautiful like this. Maybe someday you will, Laura says. Who knows what the future holds? You find a little smile flitting across your lips. You're sweet, you say, but I think we both know that ship has sailed. It's never too late, Laura says. Someday, we'll both get away from this place, and then we'll change the world together. It's a deal, you agree. Ending A+1. Place a completed token on the North Wing. Return to game. The action phase begins. So we get ending A+1. And we're going to place a completed token on the North Wing. And now we're ready to start. So Masquerade Bliss is up at the very top of the track, so she's going to get to go first before any of our wanderers get to do a blessed thing. So let's take a quick look at Masquerade Bliss's card. Over on the left side here, you have her Devour effect. This is going to happen if we were playing with the Devour rules. You have what happens if a Wanderer dies while she's still in the game. You have her passive ability. You have her health, her mental capacity, and her action sequence. Her first action is the first activation of every round. She's going to move up to one space toward the nearest Wanderer. Then we're going to place 3 domain markers matching its World Shard sentience in its space as Bliss Babies, and that's going to cost 4 mental capacity. Now you'll notice here on this second one, so if this were her second activation in the round, that this tells us to resolve the active confrontation card, which is when her confrontation deck would come into play, but that's not going to happen right now. So she's going to move one space toward the nearest Wanderer, which happens to be Claude. Hi, Claude. I come to bring you bliss and happiness and babies. And now she's going to spawn some Bliss Babies in her space. And she's going to spawn a blue, a yellow, and a red. Then she's going to come down 4 spaces on the mental capacity track, and her turn is done. So now we have Linus and we have Emily up. So looking at the back of one of the sentience sheets, we're going to see all of the actions that the Wanderers can take, and a lot of them are available to Linus and Emily at this point. They can move, they can attack, they can do an encounter action, they can do a domain action, limit once per round, they can do a search action, also limit once per round, and a trade action, limit once per round. They can do an existence action, which is where they would purchase existence cards. They can do a confrontation action, which is where they would attack the Abomination, or they can do component actions, say off of one of their domain cards, or something similar to that. It also shows here the domain card limit. It shows what happens during the refresh phase, and also some special effects for the different domains. So starting out, Emily has a number of different actions that she could do. She can't do an encounter action right now because this completed token here shows us that the gaping hole has already been completed on the north wing. However, she could do a domain action, which would get her more resources. She could search, which would be taking a card from the domain deck. She could also attack either the Penitent or the Patient here. So at this point, why don't we have Emily just get some more resources using a domain action? So to do this, she's just going to roll 3 yellow dice, matching the colors in the upper left corner of the World Shard. And she got a yellow brain, a yellow hand, and a yellow hand. Now there are no limits to the number of domains you can have on your dashboard here. These limits only apply to the number of dice you're going to roll. You can have as many on here as you want because you're going to end up spending them all pretty often and pretty quickly. And these are also going to give you opportunities to do different things. So for instance, if she wanted to re-roll a die, she could spend one of these hands to re-roll that. She could use this sphere as a wild for any test she needed to pass. She could use these brains for a variety of different things. For yellow, she could use it as an encounter or component action. For blue, she could use it as a domain or search action. Then if she happened to have a green, it would be for move, a red would be for an attack or confrontation, and a purple would be for any type of action. So down here, you'll notice she has a bunch of skulls. Skulls are good for helping other Wanderers roll more dice. So she could spend one of these yellows to have a Wanderer roll another yellow die, or a blue or green to have them roll those. The eye is used to defend against damage during the game. So she could spend this red eye to defend against that damage. And that's just kind of a little more idea of what those domains are going to do. In addition, if during a test you fail to roll one or more of the results that you need to pass that test, you can spend one or more of the domains off of your dashboard here to pass that test. So Emily is going to go down 1 mental capacity, and now Linus is going to go. So now there are a lot of things that Linus can do too at this point. He could fight Aftershock. He could get some more domains himself. He could do a search action. He could also get into the encounter here. But for right now, I think it might be cool to have him go to Claude and use his ability, You Have My Blessing. And that's going to allow Claude to get a faith token, which is going to give him +1 purple sentience value, which means he would then be able to roll some purples. So we'll have Linus move. That's going to reduce him 1 on the mental capacity track. Now we have all 3 wanderers who can go, but let's go ahead and let's have Linus go again, and we will have him spend 1 mental capacity to choose a wanderer in his space to get that faith token. So it's going to be Claude, and we're going to give him a purple faith token in order to boost him from rolling 0 purple dice to rolling 1 purple die. Okay, so we'll just adjust this from 0 to 1. There we go. And that'll take Linus down 1 more on the mental capacity track. So now for Claude, yes, there's a big baddie breathing down his neck here, and some bliss babies chomping at his feet, but let's have him jump into this encounter. This is going to be the incomplete corpse, and we're going to go to number 135. And one other thing before we get started on this encounter here, there's 3 different types of encounters in the book. So you'll see over here, these are finale encounters along the side. These are going to come into play in one of the finales. Then you also have reality shard encounters, and you have exploration encounters. Now, reality shard encounters are from the perspective of the central wanderer. So in this case, Emily. And exploration encounters are from the perspective of the other wanderers, so Claude or Linus. So this particular encounter is a reality shard. So you're going to be seeing this from Emily's perspective. And so even though this is Claude's doing this, it's almost as if he is channeling Emily's spirit, he's channeling Emily's personality, and he's seeing things through her eyes here. Entry 135, the incomplete corpse. Stepping through the door, you see a woman lying on a stone slab in the middle of the corridor, her body illuminated harshly by large, round recessed lights in the low-hanging ceiling. A sluggish, moody mist clings to the floor, slithering around your legs as you slowly, hesitantly, approach the desiccated corpse lying on the altar. The woman almost looks peaceful, though the thin, moth-eaten sheet covering her can't hide how much of her body is missing. "I'm so sorry," you manage. "I'm so sorry for everything. I feel ashamed that you're here, that you're not with me, that I wasn't better to you. I failed you. I failed us. I wish you were still here so I could beg for your forgiveness." The body's jaw cracks, its mouth stirring before stretching open. Words don't emerge from its throat, though. Instead, a red energy ushers outward from between the thing's teeth. The force coalesces above the corpse's head like a crown made of crimson static. You watch the electric current convulse and sizzle in the air before turning your attention back to the mummified woman on the bed. Try to come in tune with this crimson static. Test red for 2 skulls. If you succeed, gain 1 domain card. Okay, so this would appear that we didn't get it. There's 2 hands and a sphere. However, spheres are wild, and Claude happens to have a red skull on his dashboard. So we're going to use the sphere and the red domain off his dashboard, and he's going to go ahead and pass that test. So he is going to get a domain card. And he is going to get Feverish Scribblings. You may spend 1 less mental capacity, down to a minimum of 1, to acquire an existence card during an existence action. Limit once per round. Cool. What if I remade you, you ask? What if I brought you back to me? Would you forgive me then? Could that be enough? The body doesn't answer. Tears spring from your eyes, which you wipe away with the back of your hand. Leaning down, you kiss the corpse's sunken cheek. The red electricity dances across your face, requiting your kiss with each little shock to your skin. "I'll fix this," you murmur, straightening. "I'll make us whole again. Then it'll all be okay. You'll see." As your gaze shifts from the corpse, you realize the corridor you stood in has vanished, except for the wall behind you and the ceiling overhead. Instead, you see what seems to be a limitless expanse stretching out before you, illuminated sparsely by the ceiling's rare recessed lights and the mist that imperfectly reflects their sallow glow. Taking a deep breath, you glance once more at the open door behind you and the corpse on the altar. Then, steeling yourself, you set off into the gloomy emptiness yawning before you. Perhaps, if you look closely enough, you'll find something to help fill the void. Ending B+1. Place a blue consequence token on the attic. Spawn the encounter assembly required on the hidden place. Place a completed token on the hidden place and return to game. So ending B+1, we're going to put a completed token on the hidden place. We're going to put a blue consequence token on the attic. And this is going to change something as we progress further in the attic. Then we're going to spawn the encounter assembly required on the hidden place. That'll cost 2 mental capacity for Claude, and that'll be the end of his turn. So now for Emily's activation, what I'd like to do is show off a couple more things that you can do in Dawn of Madness. So if we look at her dashboard here, you're going to see that she has 2 brains. Now these can be used in place of mental capacity to perform different actions. So for instance, yellow can be used for an encounter or component action, and blue can be used as a domain or search action. So what we're going to do now, let's see how you can chain a couple of actions together and preserve your mental capacity as much as possible. So for starters, what we're going to do is we're going to have Emily use this support card. It says flip this card to perform a move or search action. So we're just going to flip it over. It's going to flip back over during the refresh phase, and we'll get to use it again next round. Now she can move up to 3 spaces, but we're just going to move for this particular example to the chair. And then she is going to spend her yellow brain and 1 mental capacity to get into this encounter, Stalker in the Dark. And that is going to be encounter number 248. Stalker in the Dark. The chair lingers before you, perched atop its island of sallow light amidst a sea of Stygian gloom. It terrifies you, but at the same time, it also fascinates you, calls to you, and draws you into its seat. Finally, trembling, you give in to its demands. You hear murmurs closing in on you, a sound that swells and surges until it's a cascade of chatter. So many voices swirl around you, whispering of strange experiments, unearthly realities, and evolving humanity. You don't think these people are from the asylum. They seem outside of it. You get the feeling that your nightmare is all their elaborate joke. You see something, a relic throbbing with otherworldly energy below your feet, and then the world blazes around you. The lights flicker on and off overhead, dousing you alternately in pitch black and unnatural, off-color fluorescent. The bulb's hum is like a staccato swarm of metal insects, stuttering petulantly in time with the light itself. Doors to patient rooms line either side of the corridor, their small observation windows hinting at the darkness they contain. A feeling of dread wriggles inside your belly, growing closer to panic each time the corridor cuts to night. You are becoming more and more certain there's something behind you, stalking you, growing closer every time the impenetrable blackness returns. The lights douse afresh and you freeze. You still hear your breath panting in and out of your lungs, but it is accompanied by a different sound, like someone or something shifting in the hallway behind you. Its heavy feet thud on the tile floor. Why haven't the lights turned back on yet? It's coming quicker. Run! Try to evade your pursuer. Test green for 2 eyes and blue for 2 brains. If you succeed, go to entry 125. If you fail, proceed to entry 228. Ooh, this will be tough. So she's going to roll 2 blue dice and 2 green dice. Oh man, look at that. She got it. So now we're going to go to entry 125. The lights flicker and flash back on, revealing a looming corridor. Skidding around it, you see a set of double doors with a push bar blocking the way up ahead. You hope those doors aren't locked. At least, not yet. You hear whatever is pursuing you galloping down the hallway in your wake, having wholly abandoned stealth. It's getting so close. The hairs on your limbs and neck are all standing on end. You ram into the crash bar at full speed and the door blessedly swings open. Whirling around, you push the door closed again as quickly as possible. The lights flicker off once more as your pursuer rounds the corner. You can't see it. You just know it's coming for you so very quickly. The door clicks shut. Seconds later, the brute on the far side slams into it. You press your body against the doors, trying to keep them closed as the unseen horror on the far side rams them again and again and again. Your feet are slipping on the floor. You don't know how much longer you can keep this thing at bay. Try to keep the doors closed. Test red for brain and blue for hand. Oh, this one's gonna be tough, because she only rolls 1 red. Okay, well, she failed. So we are going to proceed to entry 42. Your feet slip underneath you and the doors burst open. Your pursuer is in the room now. It thrashes and foams, its arms impossibly long. Its face, what's wrong with its face? Turning left, you scramble away from the thing. You throw chairs and tip over tables behind you, trying to slow it down. It just keeps coming. You reach the door on the far end of the room and wrench it open before stopping dead in your tracks. The eyeless apparition seems to fill the corridor before you, the sharpened teeth of its lipless maw grinning obscenely. Bending down, it steps through the doorway before straightening, its incredibly tall, thin body looming above you. "We would offer you a gift, dreamer," it rasps, "but instead, you have provided one for us." It spreads its moth-eaten cloak, then steps between you and the terror pursuing you. Next, it expands, its tattered rags stretching to fill the room. You don't wait any longer to see where this is going. Turning, you flee as fast as your legs will go. Ending C+1, gain the coda card, The Apparition. Spawn the encounter, Giver of Gifts, on a random world shard, and place a completed token on the chair. And she got The Apparition, which is +1 green and -1 blue. And now we're going to spawn Giver of Gifts on a random world shard. So to do that, we're just going to roll an Otherworld die, and it's going to go on 12, up here at the west wing. So now Emily and Linus are both on the number 5 position on the mental capacity track, but so is Symptom Bile. And monsters will always go before wanderers. As such, Symptom Bile gets to go first. So let's see what Symptom Bile is going to do. Its first action is limit once per round a wanderer is within 1 space. Each wanderer within 1 space gains a weakened card. So there's no wanderer within 1 space, so they should be safe. However, it also has a special ability that is activated because of this eye. And that special ability is each wanderer within 2 spaces gains a weakened card instead. Well, Emily is within 2 spaces, so she will gain the weakened card. Deal 1 less damage during an attack action. At the end of the action phase, you may spend 2 hand domains of any sentience to discard this card. Bummer. But now Symptom Bile is going to go down 2 spaces on the mental capacity track, and now Emily and Linus can go. So I have a hard time being this close to the abomination without trying to hurt the thing. So let's go ahead and let's have Linus perform a confrontation action. To do this, he's going to try to get these 3 domains here, a purple eye, a green eye, and a blue hand. If he succeeds, he'll gain 1 existence, and he'll do 2 wounds to the abomination. Okay, so let's see what Linus can do here. Oh, okay. We did it. So Linus is going to get 1 existence, and he's going to do 2 wounds to Masquerade Bliss. Now, since he confronted Masquerade Bliss and succeeded in the confrontation action, we're going to flip over a new card. And this one is now going to activate for Bliss rather than this one. And normally that would cost Linus 2 mental capacity. However, we're going to go ahead and use another support card to do this. So flip this card to perform an attack or confrontation action. So we'll be able to use that again next round. So Linus got to do that at no cost. So what I think I'm going to have Linus do is he has a green brain on his dashboard. So I'm going to have him move 1 space for 1 mental capacity, which would be what this would be. And then let's have him do an encounter. Specifically, we'll have him flip this card to perform an encounter or domain action. And he could go into either encounter here. He could go into the Masked Patience, or he could go into Giver of Gifts. And honestly, I kind of want to see what's in Giver of Gifts. So let's go into that one. Your breath catches in your lungs as you see the eyeless apparition looming in the space before you. It drifts toward you as its lipless maw grins obscenely, its sharpened teeth glinting. Its incredibly tall, thin body towers above you. "We would offer you a gift, dreamer," it rasps, extending its clawed hands, "to help you see in the violent darkness of this accursed otherworld. Will you accept our gift?" If you want to run away from the monster, proceed to entry 192. If you think you can fight off the creature, turn to 107. Or if you wish to accept the apparition's gift, test purple for 2 spheres. If you succeed, go to entry 145. Well, we are going to try to accept that gift. And we got it. So if you succeed, go to entry 145. You swallow a large lump down your throat. "I will accept your gift." "Well chosen, traveler," the being says. Then, reaching inside the tattered rags of its outfit, it produces a glowing orb that swirls with blue, ethereal energy. Hesitantly, you reach out and take the sphere. You hold it, staring in awe into its swirling depths. Then the orb begins to dissolve as if burning from the inside out, its ashes rising toward the ceiling. In short order, the globe is completely gone, replaced with a small triangular stone with a circular hole in its center. "For those times when you must scry what the future holds and your own vision fails," the creature whispers, "may you become one of the collective enlightened and someday return to the corporeal realm as a restored being." Then it is gone, leaving behind only a wisp of smoke and ash. Ending C +2. Gain the coda card The Scrying Eye, 1 existence, and 1 domain card. Remove the encounter card Giver of Gifts from the game. And here is the Scrying Eye. +1 purple. Ooh, no downside. And he also gets 1 existence and a domain card. He gets the Abandoned Revolver. Spend X hand domains of any sentience to choose a terror in the same or an adjacent space. The chosen monster loses X health. X is no more than 3. Limit once per round. Oh, dang. And then we're going to remove Giver of Gifts from the game. Because we use the support cards and his brain domain, Linus is still at the top of the mental capacity track. So I have a hard time not just trying to hit the abomination again, especially since its next action is going to be pretty nasty if we let it happen, and it would activate in just another minute. So why don't we have him try this again? It's going to be a bunch of hands, a red hand, a green hand, a blue hand, and a purple hand. Oh man, did we do it? We've got purple, we've got red, we've got blue, we don't have green. Let's see, what can we do? So Emily has a green skull, so we're going to roll another green die. Okay, well that failed. However, Linus also has another green sphere on his dashboard, so let's use that. So he got it. Oh wow, this one he gets 3 existence for. So he has 5 existence now. And he does 4 wounds to the abomination. So we'll just take one of these away and put a 5 on there. 6. And now we'll flip over a new confrontation card, which is an easier one. Cool. So it's not going to devastate the Wanderers quite as much. And that'll take Linus down 3 mental capacity. 1, 2, 3. And now Emily gets to go. And Emily has a blue brain on her dashboard, so why don't we have her spend that to do a search action. And she got the cracked pocket watch. After your activation ends, you may immediately perform another action. Limit once per round. Oh man, that's really good. Okay, well in that case, since Emily can now do 2 actions in a row, let's have her move first of all. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3 spaces. So normally she would now be done. However, she has her cracked pocket watch, which allows her to immediately perform another action after her activation. So she's going to go into the entry coming home. You're home. Stepping through the front doorway, you feel a wave of nearly overwhelming nostalgia mixed with something else. Thick, tingling anxiety. You're not sure exactly why this nervousness is festering inside you as you walk through the foyer, the floorboards creaking under your feet. Perhaps it's just because it's been such a long time since you were last here. You wonder absent-mindedly if your parents are home, which forces an unexpected lump to rise in your throat. Passing several closed doors in the stairwell, you reach the end of the entry hall. A family picture hangs above a low oak cabinet on the wall in front of you. The image catches your eye. There's something off about it, though you can't pinpoint what. However, before you can lean forward to inspect the picture, you hear 2 competing sounds stir to life. The old family TV flips on with the familiar electric burp of vacuum tubes in the living room to your right. Simultaneously, water crashes into a steel basin as someone turns the old creaky knobs of a faucet. The sound may be coming from the kitchen. To examine the picture, go to entry 74. If you prefer to enter the living room, turn to 69. If you want to explore the kitchen, proceed to 153. Let's explore the kitchen. Turning left at the end of the hallway, you pass through the back of the into the dining room. The sound of running water grows louder as you stride by the dining table and its derelict cobwebbed chairs. A dusty chandelier dangles from the ceiling, kidnapping glimmers of light from the grimy picture window behind the table. Approaching the open entryway between the dining room and the kitchen, you peer through it to the other side. A woman is standing at the sink, her back to you as she cleans dishes in the stainless steel basin. A white blouse and gray skirt peek out from behind a yellow floral print apron, accentuating her blonde hair tied into a neat bun. "Hello?" you say tentatively, stepping into the room. "Excuse me, Stepping toward the woman, you place a hand on her shoulder. The woman doesn't make a sound or try to move. You step forward to look at her face, and she turns away from you, placing dishes in her drying rack. "I was just wondering if we could talk for a moment," you say. "I wanted to ask you about my family." You try to come around the woman, but she jerks away from you again, keeping her back to you. It now sounds like soft, muffled sobs emanate from her, though they're so quiet it's hard to be sure. "Can't we speak for just a minute?" you say. "Then I promise I'll leave, and you won't have to see me again." Grabbing her shoulders, you turn her towards you and gasp. She has no face. There's only smooth, featureless skin where her eyes, nose, and mouth should be. Scramble to comprehend the horror before you. Test purple for 2 eyes. If you fail, lose 1 mental capacity. Well, bad news. Emily only has 1 purple. So she can't pass this test no matter what. And no one else has any purple skulls, so... Yep, so she's just automatically going to fail. Now, she's already at 0 mental capacity by entering this encounter. So what she's going to have to do is take a wound rather than taking mental capacity. Releasing her, you back away. The woman moans and mumbles, her muffled voice barely audible through her smooth flesh. She reaches for you blindly, searching vainly for the person who thought to touch her, to console her, if ever so briefly. You continue backing away from her, horrified revulsion mixing with pitying empathy. And that's when you see her skirt ripple and bulge as a miniature multitude skitters and bumps beneath it. The woman moans softly once more, her hands rising falteringly to clutch her head. She begins clawing at her skin where her mouth and eyes should be, desperate to carve away the featureless flesh. Then, seemingly on cue, a flood of beetle-black cockroaches pours out from under her skirt, dashing across the floor toward you. Attempt to evade the swarm of skittering insects. Test green for hand. If you fail, lose 1 health and gain 1 slowed card. Oh, spheres, we're good. Stifling your own groan, you look around for a way out, only to discover that the kitchen is melting into an asylum corridor. Meanwhile, the woman's apron transmutes into a straitjacket as she bucks and writhes, trying to free herself from these new restraints, just as she had struggled to carve out her face. Transport the active wanderer to the asylum hallway. The cockroaches flood up the asylum walls and across the floor. They're getting so close. Turning, you run. You see a set of double doors up ahead. You collide with one door's crash bar at full speed, spin through the doorway, then push the heavy panel shut again as fast as its hydraulic piston allows. You get one final look at the faceless woman before the glass turns black with scuttling cockroaches. Ending B +1. Gain the Coda card, The Faceless Woman. Spawn the encounter The Skittering Corridor on the west wing. If not revealed previously, spawn the encounter's TV Fun Time on the living room and the family photo on the entryway. Place a completed token on the entryway if there isn't one there, and remove the encounter card Family Chat from the game. So Emily's going to get +1 green and -1 blue. And now we're going to spawn the encounters. So the Skittering Corridor goes on the west wing. TV Fun Time goes on the living room. And the family photo goes on the entryway. And then we're going to place a completed token on the entryway. Oh, and we're going to remove the card Family Chat from the game. Okay, so Emily's turn is very much done at this point. So, let's see what all these nasty monsters are going to do. So its first activation every round, roll the Otherworld die. Forsaken moves up to 2 spaces toward the matching world shard. Okay? It's going to go 2 spaces toward 8. 1, 2. So that's going to reduce it 2 mental capacity. Now we'll have Patient Aftershock go. No Wanderer in its space. Aftershock moves up to X spaces toward the Wanderer with the most hand domains. Okay, well that's definitely Emily. So it's going to go 1, 2. If Aftershock ends in a Wanderer's space, oh, and that's going to cost it 2 mental capacity. Immediately check the action below. A Wanderer is in its space. Aftershock deals 2 red damage to the Wanderer with the most hand domains in its space. Okay, so it's going to do 2 red damage to Emily, and Emily has 1 red die, so let's see if she can defend against it. Okay, well that's not so good. However, she does have a red eye on her dashboard, so we'll spend that, and that's going to reduce the damage by 1. So she's going to take 1 wound. And that's going to end Aftershocks round. It's now at 0 mental capacity. So next up we have Bliss. Bliss is going to do her active confrontation card. Each purple Bliss baby moves up to 2 spaces. See Bliss's passive ability. If a Bliss baby ends in a Wanderer's space, that Wanderer loses 1 health and places the Bliss baby on his or her dashboard as a skull domain. Then every purple domain on the dashboard becomes a skull domain. Well, we are very fortunate in that there is not a single purple Bliss baby on the board right now. So nothing's going to happen there, but it is still going to cost 1 mental capacity for her. And we're going to reveal her next confrontation card. And now it's Claude's turn. So at this point, Claude could go into this encounter. He could confront the abomination. He could attack Aftershock, or he could move. He's right there. It's a long shot, but he also has some brains on his domain. I almost think we're going to do a confrontation action, and we're going to see if he can do some more damage to Bliss. He got a blue brain. He got a green sphere. He got a purple brain. No red. Oh no, no red. Let's have Linus spend 1 skull. So he's going to get to roll another red. Oh, you got a brain! 4. You did it. Okay, so Claude's going to get 2 existence from that, which will go on his dashboard. He's also going to do 3 wounds to the abomination. And now we'll flip over a new confrontation card, which is going to be this one. And that will activate next time Bliss activates. And it's going to reduce Claude by 2 mental capacity. And now we're going to have Bile and Bliss go. So it's already done. It's top action on its action sequence. And so this is a limit once per round, so it's not going to do that one. No Wanderer is in its space. Bile moves up to 2 spaces toward the nearest Wanderer with the most weakened cards, which is Emily. So it's going to move 2 spaces to her, and that's going to be 1 mental capacity, and that's the end of its turn. Now Bliss is going to go. Each green Bliss baby moves up to 2 spaces. There are no green Bliss babies yet, so that one's okay too. So now we're going to have this card up, and now we're going to have a whole bunch of things and people and things and so on go. Okay, so Bliss is going to have her new confrontation card here. Each yellow Bliss baby moves up to 2 spaces. So we do have a yellow Bliss baby, and it's right here in Claude's spot. If a yellow Bliss baby ends in a Wanderer space, that Wanderer loses 1 health. He's going to take a wound and places the Bliss baby on his or her dashboard as a skull domain. Then every yellow domain on the dashboard becomes a skull domain. Well, luckily he only had 1 other yellow on his dashboard, so that's fortunate. And that's going to cost it 1 mental capacity, and we'll flip over its next card, which is red Bliss babies. Oh, that one would be a little more painful for Claude. Okay, so now Symptom Bile is going to go again. So now Bile is going to attack Emily. A Wanderer is in its space. Bile deals 2 purple damage to the Wanderer with the most weakened cards in its space. However, its special ability relies on spheres, and it has a sphere, so it's going to activate that as well. Or it deals 1 additional purple damage, so it's going to do 3 damage. And she only gets 1 purple die to resist it. Okay, well she did resist it, but she's still going to take 2 wounds. So, not ideal. And that's only going to cost it 1 mental capacity. It's going to get to go again before everything's said and done. So, yikes. And now Penitent Forsaken gets to go. And Penitent Forsaken is going to do its second ability. Place 3 domain markers on this card, matching the Sentience icons on Forsaken's World Shard. And then Forsaken loses 1 health. So it's going to put a yellow, a blue, and a purple on here. And that's going to lose 1 health. So what's happening here is Forsaken is just going to slowly kill itself. And each time it's going to collect more and more domain markers until finally it does kill itself, and then it's just going to erupt and explode and shower all of the Wanderers with its vitriol and fury and so on and so forth. So that's unfortunate, and that's going to be 2 mental capacity, so it's done. So now we've got Claude and Linus up. So what we're going to do, we're going to spend Claude's green brain here, and he's going to use that to move 1 space in here, and he's going to attack Symptom Bile. And he's going to go for this blue domain rift. These domain rifts are how you can attack the monsters. And once a domain rift is removed, you can no longer attack it from that spot. You could only attack it from these others. Once all 3 of these domain rifts are removed, then it would spawn new domain rifts by pulling more of the world shard that it's in, its essence, into this place. So Claude is going to roll 3 dice, and he's going to try to hit that thing. Okay, so he got a sphere, so that's 1. Let's see if there's anything else he can do. Emily has a blue skull, so he's going to roll another blue die. What is with these brains? And that was a miss. However, Linus also has a blue skull, so he's going to roll another one. See if we can do some more damage here. We got a hand. Okay, so that's 2 damage. He does have a blue hand domain on his card, so we're going to use that too, so that's going to be 3 damage. And because of his 44 Magnum, he gets to roll 1 additional sentience die for each targeted domain rift. Oh, a sphere! So he did it. So he killed Symptom Bile. And just in time too, because not only was Symptom Bile about to hurt Emily again, but at the end of the action phase, every Wanderer loses 1 health because of Symptom Bile. So he's going to get another existence for that. So he now has 3 existence. And we're just going to put his card back on the bottom of the terror deck. And he'll pull back up eventually, I suppose. Bye, Bile. Okay, so that was 2 mental capacity, so Claude's done. Now Linus gets to go. Linus has a ton of existence cards, and these don't cost any mental capacity, so let's go ahead and get 1 or 2 of these. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 existence. So he should be able to get something here. So actually, you know what? I think we're just going to have him do this one. Your burden is light. Spend 1 mental capacity to choose a Wanderer to discard a burdened, overwrought, slowed, weakened, disoriented, lightheaded, or traumatized condition card. So that's going to cost 2. And so now he's got this. And then, let's see. He has a couple 3s here too. We're going to have him get this one, Gifts of Faith. On their activations, every Wanderer with a Faith token may gain a random domain matching one of their Faith token's sentience. Limit once per round, roll a corresponding sentience die to determine domain. So that's going to be 3. So that's a couple of good abilities unlocked there for him. Now let's have him use his Your Burden is Light card. He's going to spend 1 mental capacity and choose a Wanderer to discard a weakened card in this particular instance. So Emily's going to discard her weakened card, and that's going to cost him 1 mental capacity. So now the Abomination's going to go, and she's going to use this ability. Each red Bliss Baby moves up to 2 spaces and then does its thing. So let's see, who's got the most red? Claude definitely has the most red. So it's going to move toward Claude's space there, And then it's going to give him a wound, and then it's going to go on his dashboard down here in the skull spot. And then these two lovely spheres are going away, and now they become skulls. Dang it. And that's the end of Bliss's round. We're going to flip over another card. This is what we will have to hit next, or she's going to hit us with. And that's a pretty nasty one. Oh dear. So Linus has one more mental capacity, and I think he's going to do a domain action. So he's going to get a green skull, a green brain, and a yellow sphere. We're just going to put those here, here, and there. And that is the end of Linus's activation. So now we reach the refresh phase. And first of all, we're going to see if we've won. Well, the Abomination's still alive, and we obviously don't have 50 points on the ending tracks here. So we have not won. We respawn dead wanderers. Luckily, there are no dead wanderers. And now we restore everyone's mental capacity. And now we're going to refresh the support cards. To do that, we're just going to flip them over. And then we would spawn Devour tokens if there were Devour rules in this game, but there aren't. And then we're just going to flip over the game round tracker. Now we're going to go on to the event phase of round 2, and we're going to go to entry 20 in the storybook. So for this round, all we're going to do is check the spawning conditions on the back of each unspawned encounter card, and spawn the Terror Patient, Hysteria, and a random terror from the Terror deck on different world shards. There's this little deck of encounter cards. On the back of them, there are specific instructions on what to do to spawn them. So I'll just look through these really fast and determine if any of their conditions have been met. Okay, so there are no encounters yet that we need to spawn. So we now need to spawn a couple of terrors, and those are going to be Patient Hysteria and Vessel Womb. Okay, so Hysteria ended up here on number 11, and its domain rifts were a purple sphere, a yellow skull, and a blue eye. And then Womb ended up over here, and she has a blue brain, a red hand, and a yellow skull. And now we're going to get going, starting with Bliss. And since this is the first activation of the round, Bliss is going to move up to 1 space toward the nearest wanderer, then place 3 domain markers matching its world shard sentience in its space as Bliss babies. And since they're equal distance, and there's no real thought as to which one should go where, we'll have her move up to Linus. And then she's going to do 2 green and a yellow. So now up is Linus and Emily. Okay, so we're going to start by having Linus do a domain action. So a yellow sphere, a green hand, and a green skull. And that's going to take him down 1 mental capacity. And now we'll have Emily go. And for Emily, I'm going to have her move here. So it's going to cost her 1 mental capacity. And now Womb is going to go. So no wanderer within 1 space. Well, there are wanderers within 1 space, so we'll skip her first action and we'll go to her second one. A wanderer is within 1 space. Womb deals 2 damage to a chosen wanderer. The damage color matches the wanderer's lowest sentience value. Oh, interesting. And then she also has a hand which will activate her special ability. Deals damage to every wanderer within 1 space instead. Damage color matches each wanderer's lowest sentience value. Ooh, yikes. Okay. So it's going to attack Claude with green because he only has 1 green die. He also rolls 1 yellow and 1 purple, but let's do this one. An eye. So he defends against 1, so he'll take 1 wound. And then it's also going to attack Linus. And we'll have Linus defend with green too. So he got an eye also. So he's going to also take 1 wound. And That is only going to cost her 1 mental capacity. We're gonna have to take her out quick. That's nuts. Okay, so now we've got all of our wanderers who can go. Emily's gonna do a domain action here. So she's gonna roll 2 purples and a red. So she got a purple hand, a purple sphere, and a red eye. So that'll cost 1 mental capacity for her. So now Claude and Linus are going to go. And Claude is going to attack Womb. So he is going to attack her red hand there. Well, not as good as it could have been, but not the worst either. Yeah, no one else has anything they can do to help him. So he's going to do 2 wounds to her, and this is removed. And we're going to use the support card for that action, so that's not going to cost us any mental capacity. So now Claude is able to go again. And I think actually we're going to just have Claude pick away at Womb some more. So this time he's going to attack the blue brain. Oh, okay, so 2. And he also has a blue brain on his dashboard, so he'll spend that too. So he'll do 3 wounds. And so Claude killed Womb, so see you later. And her card will go back on the bottom of the tarot deck. And then we've got Linus. And to start off with Linus, I think we're going to have him do another confrontation action. I know it seems like that's kind of all I'm doing right now, but Bliss is right there, and I think he can knock this one out. So let's try it and let's see what happens. Plus, I'm not sure I want to have this happen to him next time Bliss activates. Okay, here we go. So we got an eye, we got a red brain, we got a red hand. The only one we're missing is the green. And he's got a green brain on his card. He did it. Look at that. Nice. And he's going to get 2 existence for that. And now this card will go in the pile, and we'll pull out Bliss's next one, which hopefully won't be quite as severe. It's not. Nice. Oh, though it is pretty powerful still. Well, oh well, it's okay. Okay, so now it's Emily's turn. So we're going to have her move 1 space to the pharmacy, and then we're going to use the support card to perform an encounter action, and she's going to go into 119, the Old Vessels. A sign marked with the faded, scratched word pharmacy dangles from 1 nail before you. Pivoting to the door beside it, you turn the handle. Maybe you can find something useful inside. The old hinge is open with a guttural groan, and you peer tentatively into the room beyond. The place looks almost like a tomb. Cobwebs are spun across every surface, a layer of dust that's thick enough to carve, draped across the cabinets and floor. Tinctures, vials, and bottles crowd together on every shelf. A smell of dry decay wafts through the air. You don't immediately see anything overly alarming, so you step into the room. As you move deeper into the pharmacy, though, you face a shock. Bodies are propped up in the corners or squirreled away atop tall cabinets. They look old, almost mummified. However, you're not sure if these mummies are wrapped in gauze or a substance like spider webbing. Something draws you to examine one of the mummies. As you move forward, though, you notice a clipboard hanging up that could also be interesting. Then you hear a bump on the other side of the nearest line of shelves. Is there something in the next aisle? If you want to examine one of the mummies more closely, go to entry 327. If you're going to study the clipboard, turn to 139, or if you want to see what's on the next aisle, go to 186. Well, let's go ahead and go to entry 139 and look at that piece of paper, because let's be honest, everything else sounds more interesting, so this is probably the one we should go to. Drawing your attention away from the pharmacy's oddities, you turn to the clipboard hanging from a nail hammered into the side of a case. It's thick with old yellowed paper, and you quickly realize it's a medication list with patients' names scrawled below each medicine. You flip through the pages searching for anything useful, and land at last on a listing described as a powerful antipsychotic drug. The description declares that it is meant to suppress foreign voices and static in the patient's mind, as well as lessen the severity and frequency of hallucinations, visions, and night terrors. Can be used in combination with other substances to make the patient more docile and less prone to problematic delusions or destructive tendencies. There's something simultaneously interesting and repulsive about this medication's description, though you're not entirely sure what. Your eyes scroll down the patient list, and you land on 3 names interspersed throughout them: Laura Bingham, Elizabeth Hawkins, and Emily Hawkins. A strange sound arises behind you. Actually, no. It's coming from everywhere. Putting down the clipboard, you step backward, looking frantically around you, ending D+1. Go to entry 154. A deep rattling hiss arises from every corner of the room. Panicked, your gaze darts around the enclosed space, searching for the source. Never mind. This place isn't worth it, no matter what treasures you might find. You turn to flee from the pharmacy. The mummies all swell, their mouths stretching wider and wider as something pushes upward out of them. The bodies judder and shake, their webbed restraints tearing as they pitch back and forth. Their old bones crack and snap as their skin rips. Bleached white creatures that almost resemble spiders spill out of the mummies' mouths, tumbling to the ground and skittering directly toward you. Their maws make a horrible mewling sound as they approach, their pale skin utterly devoid of eyes. How do they know you're here? Is it your scent? Your breathing? Your fear? You can't escape in time. The creatures are already on you, clutching at your shoes and legs. Their teeth gnaw and chatter. You scream. "Oh!" a dry, cracking voice wheezes. "A patient!" A tall, lanky man wearing a tattered lab coat stumbles around the side of the cabinets. The top of his head is completely gone, leaving behind a crescent wound as if something took one great bite out of it. His belly is also exposed, riddled with ragged holes and gaping gashes. The pharmacist picks up one of the white spider things and starts beating another one with it. He stomps on them and crushes them until they scatter away like bleached cockroaches. The man grins and leans down to the place where you have crumpled on the ground. His teeth are yellow, rotten and slanted, his face little more than his smile, nose, and a tuft of hair. "Now," he says, the gray and red mass that is what remains of his brain softly pulsing. "You look like you're in pain. How may I be of service?" Ending C+1. Gain the coda card The Pharmacist. Spawn the encounter The Pharmacist's Truth on the pharmacy. Place a completed token on the pharmacy. Place a completed token. Ending C+1. Gain the coda card The Pharmacist. The Pharmacist. Oh no. It's going to take away her purple. No! We're going to spawn The Pharmacist's Truth. And The Pharmacist's Truth will be spawned on the pharmacy. And we return to game. Okay, so Emily's still up because we used the support card for that. Now we can't jump right into this one because it says we must spend a pill token to enter this encounter, so we need to find a pill token first. Let's have Emily do a search action. And she gets the Tarnished Lighter. When resolving a test, you may roll 1 additional die of any sentience. Oh yes! And doing a search action costs 1 mental capacity, so she's going to move down to 4, where everyone is waiting. So, okay, you guys move out of the way. You're not going to go for a while. Let's start with Bliss. And Bliss is getting angry because we keep hurting her. Each Bliss baby moves up to 1 space. If a Bliss baby ends in a Wanderer's space, that Wanderer loses 1 health and places the Bliss baby on his or her dashboard as a skull domain. Then every domain of that sentience color on the dashboard becomes a skull domain. Oh, this one's not limited by color. No! Okay, so they're going to move toward the Wanderer with the most of whatever sentience. Claude and Linus are tied, so this little blue guy will have him come to Claude. And Claude's blue eye now becomes a skull. Yes. Yes. Here's Claude's dashboard right now. Oh, that's terrible. Oh dear. Okay, and these guys are all perfectly happy going to Linus. So, and Claude's going to take 1 wound for the one that came to him. Linus is going to take 3 for these guys. Oh, goodness. Oh, which puts him up to 5. Time to run, Linus! So, look at the glories of Linus's dashboard. It's almost perfect. The only thing it's missing is brains. Boy, he's getting a lot of skulls there. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! That is the worst. That is, like, the wound is bad, but that is just awful. And what's even worse, that only cost 1 mental capacity for her. Oh no. We'll have Hysteria go next. No Wanderer in its space. Hysteria moves up to X spaces toward the nearest Wanderer with the most I domains. X equals the Wanderer's number of I domains. If Hysteria ends in a Wanderer's space, immediately check the action below. Okay, so there's oh, Linus. Linus has 2. So I guess he's going to move 2 spaces toward Linus. And that's going to cost 2 mental capacity, and that's Hysteria done. And now Aftershock will go. No Wanderer in its space. There is a Wanderer, so it's going to skip that action. A Wanderer is in its space. Aftershock deals 2 red damage to the Wanderer with the most hand domains in its space. Well, Claude's got no hand domains, but he is in its space, so it'll still do 2 red damage to him. But Claude's going to get to defend with 3. And he got 2 spheres. So he beat all the damage. I'll take it down 2 mental capacity. And now Forsaken will go. So it's the first activation of the round, so we're going to roll the Otherworld die. And it's going to move 2 spaces toward 3. Oh, well, it's going to move 1 space toward 3. That's 2 mental capacity. Okay, so now Emily and Linus get to go. We're going to use the support card here, and he's going to move. We're going to have him move down here. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And so now he's still top of the mental capacity track. Let's have Emily go. We're going to have her move 1 space. And now we're going to have Linus give her a faith token. So she's going to get a faith token, and it's a blue one. That'll cost him 1 mental capacity. So now it's Bliss's turn to go. And her current confrontation card is Bliss moves up to 2 spaces toward the nearest Wanderer. If it ends in a Wanderer's space, each Wanderer in that space changes all of his or her domains into skull domains. That sounds pretty bad. However, this also costs 4 mental capacity, and she only has 3 mental capacity left. So she's going to skip this action. She's going to go to her next one. A Wanderer is in its space. Bliss deals X yellow damage to a Wanderer in its space. Well, that would have been Linus. However, Linus just ran away. So she can't do that one either, which means there's no action open to her, so she is reduced directly to 0. And now we've got all 3 Wanderers up. So let's have Claude move. He'll go 1, 2, 3 spaces. So that'll use up the last of his mental capacity for the round. We'll have Emily go into this encounter here and see if we can get her some purple domains. So that's got to be 202. The parents consumed. You stand in front of your family's home, looking up at its peak as its windows burn bright beneath an angry, bruised sky. Rain flows with the tears on your cheeks, soaking through your hair and clothes. Regardless, you don't move, incapacitated by indecision. You desperately want to go in, but maybe it's better if you just turn and walk away. After all, this house may still be your family's home, but is it truly yours anymore? You see the shadows shifting between the trees and the side of the house. Perhaps it's just the wind ruffling the branches and bushes over there. Or maybe it's the darkness in your soul closing in upon you. At last, you force your feet to move. You head inside the house, across the entryway, and into the family room. Your parents look up from where they clutch each other. Some deep part of you realizes there's something very wrong with the room, but all you can focus on right now is your parents' faces. Your mother's look is as unreadable as stone. However, your father's expression contorts, fresh shadows filling the angry trenches in his face. "What are you doing here?" he snaps at you. I only wanted," you stammer. "Haven't you done enough, you ungrateful sow?" your father yells, lunging to his feet. "This is all your fault! She is never coming back, and it's all because of you!" You feel yourself crumpling inward, your body trembling as you shatter inside. The walls are closing in around you, constricting. Your father is growing taller, towering above you. Fire leaps from his eyes and dances across his tongue. "Go!" he roars. "Get out and never come back! I never want to see your face again!" Then he shrinks, seeming to collapse in under his own weight. He covers his eyes with his arm. Decide if you really want to stay. If you do, test blue for eye. If you succeed, go to entry 342. Okay, well that wasn't very good. However, we're going to use one of Claude's skulls to roll another one. Okay, well that wasn't very good either. We'll do it again. We got a sphere. Okay, so we get in. "Mama, please," you say, looking imploringly at your mother. "Don't make me leave." Your mother looks up at your father, then drops her gaze back to yours. You notice her body trembling as her hand moves up to cover her mouth, a single tear rolling down her cheek. "I can't," she manages to say, her voice muffled by her fingers. Slowly, her hands creep over her face to cover her eyes. "Please, just go. You look so much like her." Your shoulders shake while you turn, but then you freeze. Finally, you realize why some part of you seemed to think this place was strange. It's because this room isn't the one you remember. In fact, it almost appears to be two locations locked in a fight for dominance. You watch as a wave of foreign objects wash away the familiar furniture and decor, replacing them with a strange interior you've never seen before. Your eyes widen in horror as you watch that otherworldly wave slowly sweep across the room. You want to call out, to warn your parents, but you can't make your mouth move in time. So instead, the other place washes over your mother and father, consuming them whole. Ending A+1, ending B+1. Gain the coda card The Family Consumed. Spawn the encounter Her New Home on the Attic. Spawn the encounter The Roiling Room on the In-Between. Place a completed token on the In-Between. So ending A+1, ending B+1. And we get the coda card The Family Consumed, which does give her purple. Oh, but it takes away her only blue. Bummer. So Her New Home goes on the Attic. The Roiling Room goes on the In-Between. And a completed token goes on the In-Between. And now we return to game. And that cost Emily 2 mental capacity, so she's only got 1 left. And now Linus is up. And since we're here, we might as well have Linus go into the Roiling Room. The Roiling Room. Now that you think about it, you're not entirely sure your parents' house ever had a family room. But if it didn't, then why is this place here? Does it even really exist? You step into the room, looking warily around it. You watch as foreign objects replace familiar fixtures before the original items overtake them again. It's almost like this place is 2 locations fusing together, fighting each other for dominance as they become one space. A cabinet appears with a collection of makeup on top of it. There is something odd about the compact mirror in the middle of the cosmetics. Approaching it, you reach out for it. As you do, though, the compact shudders, shakes, and then rockets out of the room. You watch it go, shocked at it suddenly becoming a tiny clam-shaped missile. You turn to a TV tray draped in an old newspaper. As you try to grasp this one, though, you watch it lift off the tray, dispersing inch by inch into the air. Then, finally, you stare transfixed as it vanishes altogether. This place is too unstable right now. Perhaps you'll try to come back later when it's safer. As it is, though, you have no idea what staying in this room would do should you get caught in one of those waves. Would you disappear too? Or perhaps only part of you would vanish, leaving the rest of you to flop on the ground until the last of your life drained away. In any case, you don't want to find out. Ending A +1, gain 1 existence. Linus gains an existence. Randomly spawn the encounter's reflected faces and the lost newspaper on 2 different world shards, and remove the encounter the roiling room from the game. Return to game. Okay, so the lost newspaper ended up on the psychiatrist office, and reflected faces ended up on the abyssal maw. That cost Linus 2 mental capacity. And now we're going to have a bunch of monsters go. We'll have Penitent Forsaken go first. And since this is his second activation, he's going to place 3 domain tokens on this card, red, green, and blue, based off the world shard that he's standing on. And then he's going to do 1 more wound to himself. And that's going to be his activation for the turn. And now Patient Aftershock will go. And there's no Wanderer in its space, so it's going to move up to X spaces toward the Wanderer with the most hand domain, which is definitely Emily. And that's going to be 2 mental capacity. Normally it would then check its action here, but it's not going to because it's out of mental capacity. And now Hysteria is going to go. And it's going to move up to X spaces toward the nearest Wanderer with the most I domains, which is Linus. And that's 2 mental capacity. And it's done for the round. And now we've got Emily and Linus up. And I think they're both going to move up here onto the asylum hallway. And that's going to cost them both 1 mental capacity. That seems like a silly move to make. But Emily has her palliative care ability, which allows her to spend 1 mental capacity and 1 skull domain, matching one of your occupied world shards' sentience, and then she can heal 2 wounds from a Wanderer. So she has a bunch of yellow skulls, so there is a yellow sentience here on this world shard, so we're going to use that at the start of the next turn to heal a couple of wounds off of Linus. Okay, so that is the end of this round. We have not won. There are no Wanderers to respawn, so let's restore mental capacity and flip our support cards back over and flip the game round tracker. So that's round 2 done. On to round 3, starting with the event phase at entry 30. Check the spawning conditions on the back of each unspawned encounter card. Spawn the Terror, Patient Lobotomy, and a random Terror from the Terror deck on different world shards. Okay. We almost had a condition for one of these, but not quite. And now we need to spawn Patient Lobotomy and Mongrel Feral on the board. So Mongrel Feral ended up spawning right next to Emily and Linus, so that's awesome. And it has a yellow skull, a purple sphere, and a green hand, none of which activate its special ability, while Patient Lobotomy spawned down here on the pharmacy, and it has a purple hand, a green sphere, and a red brain, which does activate one of its special abilities. Okay, so we are ready to start. And we're going to start with Bliss, her first activation. Okay, so now it is Emily and Linus. And Emily is going to spend 1 mental capacity and 1 of her yellow skulls, and she's going to heal 2 of Linus's wounds. So he was at 5 wounds, now he's at 3 wounds. Okay, and now Linus is going to go. Linus is going to attack Patient Hysteria. And he is going to shoot for the yellow skull. So Linus rolls 2 yellow. So that doesn't sound too great. But let's see if we can get a skull. Oh, we got 2 skulls. Wow! Couldn't do any better. And then he happens to have a whole slew of skulls on his dashboard. So he's gonna spend 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's going to kill Hysteria. How's that for cheap? Had to put those skulls to use somehow. Never fear, I'm sure we'll see Hysteria again very shortly. And he gets 1 existence for killing Hysteria. And he's going to move down 2 on the mental capacity track. And now it's Emily and Claude. And you know what? Since we're here, Emily's going to attack Feral. And she's going to go for the yellow skull. And Emily rolls 4 yellow dice. And she got 3 skulls. And plus, on her dashboard, she has 2 more yellow skulls. So Feral's dead. These skulls had to be good for something. That's all I'm saying. And now it's Claude's turn. So before Penitent Forsaken gets any worse, I think we should probably hit that one too. Because this is what it looks like. And right now, all this damage is going to hit the Wanderers as soon as it dies. But if it activates again, it'll be 3 more. So Claude's going to attack it. He's going to attack one of its tentacle hands. And he's going to roll an extra die because of his Magnum. And he got 3 hits. Wow, that's pretty darn good. Oh, wow, that's actually enough to kill him. Yeah, because he's got 2 wounds already. All right, so he dies. However, he's not quite as simple as some of the others. So yes, Claude's going to get 1 existence for killing him, which is fantastic. He now has 4 existence on his card. However, he's now going to disperse these as evenly as possible among all the Wanderers. So now they're going to have to defend against those. Okay, he got a sphere, so he defended against the red. Now let's see if he can defend against the blue. Oh, yes, he definitely defended against the blue. Good job, Claude. Okay, so let's have Linus defend against his blue. Okay, he's going to take that. And now let's have him defend against his purple. 2 spheres. Okay, and now Emily will defend against her yellow. 2 spheres. And she'll defend against her green. Oh, wow! Yes, she definitely passed that. So she didn't take any damage there. Could have been a lot worse. Okay, bye, Penitent Forsaken. And that'll take 3 mental capacity for Claude, because he was 1 space away. And now Linus is up. So, we are first of all, for Linus, going to have him buy another existence card. And I think we'll have him buy Help My Unbelief. A Wanderer may have 2 faith tokens at a time instead of 1. And that's going to cost 4 existence. And now we're going to do something that we haven't done yet in the game. We're going to do a trade action between Emily and Linus. Now, a trade action doesn't cost any mental capacity, and we can trade any number of domain cards between each other. So, Linus is going to give Emily the abandoned revolver. And the reason he's given this away is because Emily's got a bunch of hands, and he doesn't. So he's going to give that to Emily, and then Emily is going to give him Tarnished Lighter. And the reason for that is because we're going to once again have Linus do a confrontation action. And the reason for that is because this card's nasty, and I don't want it to happen. And they don't have enough mental capacity right now to run away. Or at least Emily doesn't. So he's going to try for blue and purple. and he's going to roll an extra blue die. Blue, brain, hand. Oh my goodness, we got it. So he's going to do 4 wounds to Bliss, and then he's going to get 3 existence. Linus is a champ. Now we're just going to shuffle her confrontation deck because we've used all of her cards. And we're going to flip over the first card. And it's Bliss Babies. That's better. That's less worrying. And now our monsters are going to go. Bliss will go first. Since it's her second action, she'll use her confrontation card. Each green Bliss Baby moves up to 2 spaces. There are no green Bliss Babies, so we don't have to worry about that one. Now we'll have Patient Lobotomy go. And it's going to move X spaces toward the nearest wanderer with the most brain domains. Not a single wanderer has brain domain, so it can't move. So it'll spend 2 mental capacity and move nowhere. 1, 2. Cool, that worked. Now Patient Aftershocks are going to go. And it's going to move up to X spaces toward the nearest wanderer with the most hands. And that's definitely Emily, so it's just going to move 1, and it's perfectly happy there. But now it's immediately going to check the action below and deal Emily 2 red damage. Emily only has 1 red die, and it's a hand. But she also does have a red eye on her dashboard still, so she's going to spend that. So she's only going to take 1 wound, which does take her up to 5 wounds, so that's getting kind of dangerous there. Okay, so that's its activation for the round. And now Emily gets to go. And Emily is going to use her abandoned revolver, which Linus just gave her. That was so nice of him. And she's going to spend X hand domains of any sentience to choose a terror in the same or an adjacent space. The chosen monster loses X health. And she's going to attack Aftershock there. And she's going to spend 3 hands that she happens to have on her dashboard there. And that's going to do 3 wounds to Aftershock, so that's awesome. And she can't use this again for the rest of the round, but I feel that was well worth it. And then we're going to have her use the support card to move, and she's going to run. And I think we're going to have Emily go up here to the Abyssal Maw. And then after that, let's have her do a domain action. She's in desperate need of some domains. 2 blue eyes and a purple skull. Well, oh well. Okay, so now Bliss is going to go, and Bliss is going to try for her confrontation card. However, this costs 4 mental capacity, and she only has 3 right now, so she can't do that. So she's going to move on to her next action, which is a wanderer in its space. There's no wanderer in her space, so she can't do that either. That means she gets reduced directly to 0. Woohoo! And then we've got all 3 of our wanderers up. And I think I'm going to have Linus move there for reasons. And then we'll have Claude go. And he's going to do a domain action as well, because he also is in desperate need of some domains. So he's getting a blue hand, a purple sphere, and a yellow eye. Look at you, Claude. Not everything you've got is a skull anymore. That's so handy. That's 1 mental capacity. And then Emily, let's have her jump into Reflected Faces, because the card says only the wanderer Emily Hawkins may enter this encounter. So hey, she's right there. She might as well. And this says, important, only the wanderer Emily Hawkins may enter this encounter. Your foot taps against something. Looking down, you frown. A compact mirror lies discarded on the floor by your toe. Bending over, you pick it up. It's shaped roughly like a clam, its black plastic shell scuffed. Popping the compact latch, you flip its lid up and examine your face in the mirror's glass. My, you certainly do look like you've been through the ringer recently. The image in the glass changes. Briefly, you observe your sister Laura's face. Then the reflection shifts again, and you see a strange, horrific visage staring back at you, one that is both utterly foreign and intimately familiar. Finally, the two other girls' reflections begin to meld with your own, swirling together into one single horrible image. "You're not me," you mutter. "You're not me. I'm me." Shaking your head briskly, you snap the compact mirror closed and shut your eyes, trying to purge yourself of that horrid sight. But alarmingly, you're not sure you can. You raise your arm to chuck the compact mirror away, but then you hesitate. For some reason, it still holds a strange pull over you. Sighing, you pocket the mirror instead. Ending A +1, ending B -1, ending C +1. Gain the Coda card, the compact mirror, and 2 existence. Remove the encounter card reflected faces from the game. So she's going to get 2 existence, ending A +1, ending C +1, ending B -1. And she's going to get the compact mirror, +1 purple, -1 green. Oh, that's actually not bad. Okay, cool. And we're going to remove this from the game. That's going to cost her 2 mental capacity. And now lobotomy is going to go. And once again, it's going to move X spaces toward the Wanderer with the most brain domains, with X equaling that Wanderer's number of brain domains. There is not a single brain domain on the board. So once again, it's going to reduce directly to 0. Now we've got Claude and Linus up, and we're going to have Linus use the support card for a free encounter, and he's going to get into entry 7. Assembly required. "I'm back," you whisper, gently tracing the desiccated face with your fingertips. "I told you I would be. And what's more, I brought something for you." Opening your moth-eaten satchel, you pull out the clammy body parts tucked away in its depths. Setting them atop the old, dust-caked sheet the partial corpse lies beneath, you start laying them out in their rough locations. "Not many more now," you murmur. "It won't be long before I finally have you back." Gain the Coda card, Parts Repository, and 1 existence. Spawn the encounter Taking Form on the hidden place. Remove the encounter card Assembly Required from the game. Taking Form. There must be at least 3 red consequence tokens on the Coda card Parts Repository to enter this encounter. This one is removed from the game. And we get the Parts Repository. +1 red, -1 yellow. When a patient terror dies, place a red consequence token on this card. Well, Linus is no longer as balanced as he was, but still not too bad off. Oh, and he gets 1 existence. Okay, so we use the support card for that. So now he's still at the top of the mental capacity track. And so we're going to have him get another existence card. And we're going to get this. Gifts of Faith. On their activations, every Wanderer with a Faith token may gain a random domain matching one of their Faith token's sentience. Limit once per round. Roll a corresponding sentience die to determine domain. That sounds very useful. And that's 3 existence. And he's still at the top of the mental capacity track. And now he's going to run. Run, Linus, run! We're going to have him go up to the asylum basement. And then that'll take him down 2. So he's done. Now Claude's going to go, and he's going into the morgue. So that's entry 11. Pieces of the whole. A chill bites into your skin as you enter the morgue. It almost feels like you stepped into a walk-in refrigerator. Striding past the assorted desks and autopsy tables, you reach the cold storage area. It's not overly broad, but it is relatively long. 3 rows of square stainless steel doors stacked one atop another line both walls, interrupted only by a shallow alcove halfway along the right side. The nook in the right wall was clearly designed as another autopsy station. A nearby rolling table sticks out into the aisle with something heaped upon it. The buzz of flies fills the air, as does a fetid stench that makes you cover your nose and mouth with a cloth. Stepping up to the table, you recoil. Rotting meat engulfs its surface. The remains are undeniably from human corpses. Looking up from the table, you see a picture pinned to the wall. The sketch depicts a skinless creature that's almost human in appearance, though the fact that it has far too many limbs fairly cleanly destroys that illusion. Perhaps they were trying to recreate Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, but the proportions and limb count are all wrong. There's something about that image though. You're just not sure what. Why does the sketch feel so familiar? Test blue for skull. If you succeed, gain 1 existence. And he gets a bunch of skulls and a sphere. Passed with flying colors. 1 existence for him. You can bring her back. Rebuild her. Make her new. The whisper catches you by surprise. Whirling around, you search for its source. No one's there. What are you? You ask the empty air. Rebuild who? Your sister can save you, the voice murmurs. She can save us all, but only if you restore her first. My sister? I don't understand. You hesitate. How would I even begin to do this? Where would I get the pieces? Start where you are, the whisper replies. There are so many donors to volunteer. You realize what the voice hints at as you look over the steel doors lining the room. Oh, of course. Walking over to one, you twist the handle and the square door opens. Reaching in, you pull out the metal tray waiting inside and unzip the bagged body atop it. Yes, you might be able to use something here. Try to brush off your crawling sense of déjà vu. Test purple for brain and skull. If you fail, gain 1 traumatized card. Well, he rolls 1, and he has a purple sphere on his dashboard. So, oh my goodness! So he's going to spend his sphere, and he's got the skull, so he's not going to get a traumatized card. The steel doors lining the room begin to quake, the handles rattling. Something is banging on the door's backsides. The cooler's occupants want out. The body sits up on the tray before you. Its eyelids crack open, revealing the milky white eyeballs beneath. The refrigerator doors around you snap open as their residents stir to life. You retreat slowly down the hall, your eyes wide. The trays are wriggling outward as their contents squirm toward freedom. Soon they will be out, and what will they do then? You back into a tray of operating tools, making its contents clatter. Then, looking back, you see a circular saw sitting amidst the other instruments. You pick up the saw, studying its contours and controls. Very well, you say, bringing the saw's blade roaring to life. Let's do this. Ending B +1, ending C +1. Unlock Emily's specific domain card, the circular saw, and immediately acquire it for free. Ooh, that's awesome. Spawn the Terra patient lobotomy on the morgue. If it is already on the board, activate it once immediately without spending its mental capacity. Place a completed token on the morgue, return to game. Okay, well, I guess we'll have lobotomy activate first, but I'm not too concerned because there's still no one with brains, so he can't go anywhere. And Claude is going to unlock the circular saw. When you attack, you may treat any domain rifts as red domain rifts instead. Oh, that's amazing! And that took him down 2 mental capacity, so he's done for the round. And then the last one to go is Emily. And we have one last support card. And I think what we're going to do is a confrontation action against Bliss. Now, it doesn't look like she can do this. However, there is one other thing we haven't looked at yet that could help her in beating Bliss. And we haven't been able to do it before because we haven't had many Coda cards, but now we do. She's got quite a few Coda cards. So let's try this and let's see what we can do. Well, she got a sphere. Oh, and she got a brain. And she got a brain. She didn't get much red. Okay, but Claude has a bunch of reds for her to roll additional dice. We got a hand. Okay. Now, she can also use the back of a Coda card and use these resources to help her in a confrontation action. So, we've already got pretty much everything else we need, but let's go ahead and we'll use this one here, and that's going to allow us to roll one more red. We don't need any of the others at this point. Ugh, that still didn't help. Okay, well, Claude's got 2 more reds. Let's see what we can do. A sphere! That'll do just fine. Okay, well that one was a little tougher. So now, we've used this confrontation card, so we are going to put an exhausted token on it, meaning that it can't be used for another confrontation action at any point in the future, even though it didn't actually get us any resources. But doesn't matter, she did this. So she's going to do 3 wounds to the Abomination, and now we're going to flip over its next card, and this is the action that it's going to do next. And now we're going to have Emily run away! And that's going to be her last mental capacity, meaning this is the end of the 3rd round. Has anyone won? No. Has anyone died? Also no. So we would need to just refresh mental capacity and then flip this over, and we are ready for the 4th round. However, we are not going to do any more rounds. This is as far as we're going to do, an effort to not spoil too much, and also for the sake of time. So we're just going to leave this as it is here, and then we're going to flip over to the next video, which is going to be about one of the finales for Emily. Now, one other thing I didn't get to show you, because a Wanderer didn't die, is what happens when a Wanderer dies. So, Emily's here, and Patient Lobotomy comes over here, and he does her in. So the first thing we're going to do is tip over her miniature, right there in her space, and then we are going to spawn her malformation in the exact same space where she died. Let's say she was at 3 mental capacity. So her malformation's mental capacity tracker would go on the same space as her current mental capacity, and then she would be reduced to 0. She would also receive a withered card. A withered card means her max health is reduced by 1. If she gets 4 of these, the game is over. So she would just hold this here. Her max mental capacity would now be 8 rather than 9. And for this example, she would have like this on her dashboard. And you would remove one of those wounds because she now has a max health of 8. Now her malformation is going to get domain rifts just like a normal Terror would on spawning. And now it's going to get those domain rifts. And then it would essentially activate in her place at this point. So everyone would go and everyone would get reduced to 0. And during the refresh phase, the malformation would go up to 6, and then you would respawn Emily on the board. So this is basically being treated as if when the Wanderer died, a part of her consciousness broke off, splintered, and shattered, and became her malformation. And her malformation is going to do some nasty things to kind of subvert her now until it dies. For instance, flip Emily's existence card Palliative Care and Soothing Murmurs to their backsides. Flip them back when this malformation dies, meaning she could no longer heal people because of this malformation. And then it would also have its activation as normal, and each one gets a little bit nastier. So each time you die, it gets a little bit harder. So that's a little bit about the malformations. During the refresh phase, Emily would now respawn on the board. So now, when she's being respawned on the board, you're going to roll dice of every color equaling her current sentience values, and we're going to restore 1 plus X health, with X equaling the total number of skull results. Oof, not a single skull. So this is actually not a test. So these 3 spheres here, normally they would count for just about any test. In this case, they don't count. However, other Wanderers can still spend skull domains to get you to roll additional dice. So say Linus did this, you could roll these 2 again to try to get more skulls. So we got 1 skull from that. And then they could just keep going here. A couple from Claude to help out. So another skull. And hey, sure, why not a couple more from Linus? Because she's hurting bad right now. Nothing. So rather than just jumping right back up to full health, she would instead just pull 3 wounds off of her card. And now she's alive, but she only has 3 health. So now that she has 3 health again, we would now spawn her back on the board. So she wouldn't just stand right back up right there. You would roll the Otherworld die, and then she would go on number 9. So that would be her starting location now. And that is how malformations are spawned on the board, and also how you come back to life after you die. At least for the first 3 times. Once you get that 4th withered card, game over. Now for the Central Wanderer, it's also entirely possible for her malformations to come out during the course of the game through other effects. In those cases, these would be spawned however those effects happen to tell you to do it. But apart from the Central Wanderer, the malformations are only going to come out when Wanderers die. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed this look at Dawn of Madness. I hope it's excited you for the game and that you're looking forward to getting your own copy. And I've had a blast playing it. I hope you've had a blast watching. So without further ado, let's hop over to the next video and see some about the finales. Whew. Well, but hopefully this gave you an idea of how the game works, how the monsters work, how the Wanderers work, the different actions they have, how the abominations work. And in the next one, we're going to take a look at how one of the final bosses work too. Now, this is only one of the final bosses and only one of the finales. They're all very different, but having said that, it'll at least give you an idea of what to expect. So, having said all that, why don't we hop over to the next video and take a look at finales.